Go.
Welcome, DM Floki, to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Great, man. Happy to be here. This is a cool thing that you're doing, so I'm excited to get on.
Thank you very much. I've been following you for a while now. I'm in your community and been watching what's going on there, and I would love to be able to get in and talk about the amazing things you have going on there. So let's go ahead and could you just tell me a little bit about yourself first, and then get into how you got into tabletop role playing game in the first place?
Uh, yeah. So I'm Floki the DM. You can find me on all the places under Floki the DM. I started Dungeons and Dragons probably, man, just over 10 years ago, something like that. So about me, I grew up in Podunk. I'm originally from Tennessee. We had nothing going on. And I was, I got it really big into video games. We we played a lot of Call of Duty growing up, and being where I was from, Magic the Gathering, D&D, the things that you found inside of the game store. Yeah, we that's like a line that we didn't cross.
Yeah, me too.
And yeah, so I never really got into it, but when I was younger, I got some Magic cards from my buddy's uncle, and he left me a box. It was nice. It was the Simon and Garfield box, and had some cool stuff in it. And I kind of got into it, and I played it here and there, just at home. And so that was kind of like the nerdy side of me. But like I said, I played a lot of video games, and then as I grew up, I joined the military. And once I joined the military, I went off into the world. Now, let me preface that with what I wanted to do was I wanted to join, do my time, and then I wanted to open a game store back home. I still something I'm really interested in. I want to own my own game shop. But that was the plan. And it was focused around video games, old school games, things like that. So during the military, I go off, I spend 4 years overseas. I come back to the States. I'm in Texas. While in Texas, at this point, technology, right? So they have Magic on the phone. So I'm like at work one day playing Magic on my phone, waiting on shift to start. And my boss comes up behind me. He's like, "You play Magic?" And I was like, "Yeah, a little bit." And so he's like, "Listen, you should come down to the shop and play with me at the shop." And I was like, "Probably not."
Go.
And
You said
yeah,
no. Denied.
so he, like I said, we didn't cross that. That wasn't a line that we crossed, right? And so he talked me into it, and I was like, "All right, man, cool. You know what? I'll do it." So I go out, buy a bunch of cards. I have no idea what I'm doing, right? Because I've never played in tournament play. I just play at home and, whatever. So I go buy a bunch of cards, and I go to the shop. He bails. He doesn't show up. So I'm there at Friday Night Magic, and I'm getting ready to play. And I'm like, I'm like completely out of my element. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm looking around lost. And the guy at the counter was like, "Hey, man, you here for Friday Night Magic?" And I was like, yeah. He's like, "Okay, have you ever played?"
Yeah.
No.
No.
So he kind of walked me through it. But I fell in love with it because I really enjoy being around people, talking to people, doing all that stuff, right? And so the idea of this made me really fall in love with the game. Not only the strategy, but the people and like all these things. I'm rambling. While I was there was a guy I became really good friends with, and we used to play. He taught me some stuff about Magic, and I knew that he ran a D&D game. And so one day I was like, "Hey, man, if I'm ever going to open a game shop, I need to know more about all these games. I'm getting the hang of Magic. There's just it opened my eyes to a bigger world." And so I was like, I know you run a game. Can I come join your game?" And it's like, "Yeah, of course." So he did like a mishmash of D&D and Pathfinder. So he's like, "Listen, it's not really traditional, but I'll walk you through kind of how things work." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I told him the idea of kind of what I was interested in. And I think it was like a Ranger Druid is basically what I end up playing. And
That was my
so,
first character too, actually, Ranger.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Back in the second edition, they were the ones that could dual wield, so that was a no-brainer for me. Yeah.
I wanted a companion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true, that's true. You get that too. Yeah.
So anyways, I built my character out, and he kind of walked me through and explained some things, and then we sat down for our first night, and this was all in person. We sat down for our first night, and he had one of those the maps you can draw on, and he had like magic card boxes that he used to like set up little towers and things like that on the map.
Oh yeah.
And so they rescued me from this like prison inside of this building that they were infiltrating or whatever. And when they rescued me, I jumped in, joined straight up in with the crew. And then at the end of the night, I was just like, he's like, all right, that's it, whatever. And everybody kind of started packing up things, getting ready to leave. And I was just looking at the map.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, bro, you good? I say, yeah. He's like, listen, I can see it in your eyes. You're hooked.
You're
And from
DM'd
that
you.
moment on, I was just,
That was it.
hooked.
There you go. So, how
And
long were you a player before you decided to take the leap into DMing a campaign yourself?
so I played with him for probably about a year, and then I moved away to um, Washington. And when I moved up there, I tried to play like he wasn't using Roll20 or anything. I don't think we were really familiar with it at the time, but I would try like
Mm,
FaceTime him in with his group there, and so we played a little bit like that. And then I went overseas and I didn't play for about a year, and then I came back and I was attached to a ship. And on the
mm,
ship, I met a group of guys that played, and I played with them for a while. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5 years as a player, and then I transferred, and I was trying to find a group to play with. I was trying to figure it out, and there was this girl that I worked with, and she had a D20 tattoo behind her ear, and she's actually the reason I got on TikTok as well. And she was like, I was like, hey, we started talking about it because I also have a business that I make stuff. I do like laser engraving, all kinds of stuff.
nice.
um, And so we were talking about that, and she was wanting to get some for her husband. And, I was like, hey, we should start up a game. And we decided to try and get the guys at work to start up with us. And they kept like, they would flake or whatever. But whenever we were starting, she was like, I am not being the dungeon master. And I was like, well, these chuckleheads have never played before. So I was like, that
Uh-oh.
leaves me.
Yep. There you go.
And
That's where it starts.
yeah.
That's where it
So I was
starts.
like, okay,
Someone has to do it.
yeah, I've never ran a game before. I need to start simple. So I went and bought the starter set, and
Yeah.
I ran that. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Before I ran that, I watched Matt Colville.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. And I ran the Daily Entomb for her and some of her friends while she was home on leave, and they were like, "Yo, this was great." Okay.
There you go. All right.
So and then after that, I built a custom one shot, and then we jumped into the pre-made adventure. And Bob's your uncle. That's
And
it.
there it is. There it is. Let me ask you, so, a lot of people who don't play tabletop role playing games, they kind of see it from the outside. And it's hard to get them in. But I'll tell you, I have never run across a situation where I brought someone new to my table and they didn't love it. Like just something about it. Every single time I've had someone come, I can't think of anyone who's ever walked away and said, "No, I never want to play this again." It's like not once. What do you think is kind of the magic of it? Because it's not like video games, it's not really like any other experience. What do you think is the compelling thing that brings people in and keeps them there?
It's a hard question because I think it's different for each person.
Mm,
Because for me, you said it's not like video games. For me, I think it very much is because it, it is in the sense that I'm getting to play. There is a generalized story that has direction, and so I get to play with my friends because when it comes to gaming, I like to play with my friends. I'm a social creature,
mm.
so playing solo games it wasn't a lot of fun to me. So we always played together online, and so in that aspect, I bring it over to D&D, and we're sitting around the table with a group of friends, and then again, you have that story that has a direction. You still have choices that you can do and make, and that was the thing for me. It was like it's a video game that's real. Like it adjusts with you as you play, and that was how I equated it because I was such a big, I play video games all the time,
Right.
and that to me was like, this is the thing. I can go any direction. I can do whatever I want to do, instead of being confined to this one thing inside of a video
Right.
game.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, I people join that I've seen that immediately will break into role play and they're like, oh my God, I love this. Like, I love being able to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I've seen the other side where they're not, but they really enjoyed the strategy of it or the interacting with the friends and like planning. So I think it's different for each person.
Mm.
But I think there are so many aspects of it that everyone finds something they're like, oh, wow, I really love
Uh,
this.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Very good. Well, okay, let's get into the tavern a little bit too. So that's kind of the next evolutionary stage of Floki. So
Yeah.
you started off with magic, you became a player, and then you're a dungeon master. Where did the idea for the tavern come from?
So I had went through a couple different discords. You know, I had the discord that I played my first group with that I ran for, and we kind of fell apart. And you know, I still am that server is still running. It's not active, but it's still running. And but I was like, it doesn't feel right to bring people here. And I tried another server, and it just you know whatever, it just wasn't working out. And so I was like, okay, I want to have a place that I can put out my content. And so I started doing Patreon and I started doing Kofi. And it was nice because, you know, people were interested, people were jumping on. And I was like, okay, where can I really interact with these people?
Mm,
How can I have a place where we can chat and I can show them more? So I was like,
mm,
well, let me start the tavern. Well, let me start a Discord server. And so I started it up. I don't remember what I originally called it, but I started it up and I was like, hey, come over here. You have a special role, so on and so forth. And it was mainly an idea that it's where I would put stuff out. And I also wanted it to run some games there. And so
mm,
I was like, okay, I can invite other people. But I think what really kicked it off was I saw on in the TikTok space that we don't really communicate a lot. So when I got on TikTok, all I wanted was to reach 1,000 followers so I could be able to go live,
mm.
and that way I could hop in with other people. Because again, that's my connection with the community is I like talking and being around people. What I noticed though was that once I hit 1,000 followers and I would see a D&D TikToker on live, I would jump in and request, and they would just ignore me. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay. And you know, granted, I mean, I was a small fish, and whatever. You don't know me,
Yeah.
I get it. So I was like, okay, I see a need here. We need to communicate more. So I did a really big giveaway where I was focused on the community and I wanted everyone to be involved and like push out other creators because I'm all about that growing community, building community. And I also made it a push to, hey, if you want to do a monthly TikTok live game as a creator where we can facilitate, we can grow together and be around each other, come over to the tavern. And the tavern is a place where we can be together and, you know, build
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And honestly, it kind of took off and, you know, it has a life of its own. You know, I've went through some iterations of how do I continue to build community and, you know, give other things. What I like to tell people is we are a D&D based community, but we are more than that. That's what brings us together, but we do
Right.
everything else.
Yeah.
And I honestly, without my staff and my moderators, there's no way I could run this. And I tell them all the time, this isn't the tavern has my name on it, but this is our tavern.
Mm,
Because they run the day to day. I mean,
mm.
you know, my life is chaos. I've got my family, I've got work, I've got
Yeah,
a business, I've got creator stuff. Like I've got all these
that's
things that
right.
I'm doing,
Yeah.
and so yeah, and you know, we have staff meetings. I'm like, hey, how can we improve? What can we do? And so that's where the ideas
Yeah.
for teaching classes, for doing movie nights, for like there's so much going on in there that
Right. Yeah. Why don't we go through kind of a list of all the things that we've
yeah.
got to talk about the auction, which is amazing,
Oh
but just
yes,
go through and just go through the feature list here of the tavern.
let me just pull it up and we'll break it down section
Okay.
by section.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So it's constantly in flux. We're constantly trying to make
Right.
changes and improvements. And as I
Yeah.
said, I'm busy. So there are some things that I fell behind on. But initially, initially when you come in, you've got at the top you have the server guide. Um, there's a spot for the tavern survival guide. It's a video that I'm supposed to make to be like, hey, these are all the things, basically what we're about to do. I've not done that yet, so that's something I need to do.
That's good.
But then we have our welcome message. With the welcome message, there's a bot initially that says, "Hey, welcome in. Check out these things." But one of the really important things to me was there needs to be a actual person there, because I don't know about you, but I've been in other servers where it's so bot heavy of like, "Hey, here's this announcement. Hey, here's it," and I'm like, I don't care. So I wanted to give the bot the, like, hey, here are the things you should check out. But we have someone that's on staff who's in charge of the welcome center, and that's Dungeon Rogue John. He's been with me for a while. He's amazing, and so he will go in and greet every person that joins. He goes in and sends a personalized message. Hey, welcome to the tavern. Then we have roles about the server, and then a spot for you to introduce yourself. And then right below that, we have server events. Now, server events is kind of where everything happens. We had ASL class for a while. It kind of died out because not enough people were able to attend. And, one of our members that was teaching it, I was like, listen, I don't want you to waste your time. I don't want you to feel like you're, not getting something out of this. And she's like, no, I get it. So we did shut that down, which it can come back in the future. I don't know. It just depends. So we have event posts, event discussion. We have a gift exchange that we're actually actively doing right now. We do usually about twice a year. We'll do Christmas in July, and then we'll do an actual Christmas exchange.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, and then we set a spending
Cool.
limit every time we vote on it.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
And the only requirement is it has to include one set of dice. Outside of that, whatever else.
There you go. Got to keep the theme. Very
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
We have a book club, which has,
Yeah, that's right.
that's
Yeah.
run by one of our staff members. I don't know, I don't partake in book club, but they do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I've been watching. There's some great recommendations in there. There's been some amazing recommendations in there.
Yeah. Then we have our server events forum. Now, in our events forums for me was a whole new thing because I hate forums. And this, like, when we decided to go this route, it changed everything. And I was like, oh, but it makes so much sense once you get into it. In here is where we kind of put the upcoming things for events and ask about people what they want to see and things like that. We have an improv class coming up. We have a crochet class going on, a D&D cooking class, terrain and miniature painting and creation, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, like you were talking about, we have our auctions. Now, the reason that we are doing auctions is whenever I went to school out in Missouri for about 4 or 5 months. And while I was out there is when we had our very first gathering. So we had talked about it before I went to school. And one of our members, Dungeon Master, said he lives out in Missouri. And he was like, hey, there's a Ren Fair up here. We should get together. And I was like, hell yeah. And then it turned into a bigger thing inside the tavern because people were like, I would love to go to that. So we put it out and we all went to Seti's house. We stayed at his house for 2 nights, two or 3 nights. And we went to the Ren Fair. And
Wow.
it was my first Ren Fair. And, there was a whole lot of, it was so much fun, man. And,
Yeah, they are a lot of fun.
yeah, and it was really cool to get everybody together. We hung out by a fire. We played D&D. Like, it was a great time. So anyways, we decided we're going to do that yearly. And the one coming up this year is going to be in October. And so we're doing these auctions to help raise funds. The goal is to pay for the lodging. So the only thing that people have to worry about is getting themselves there. If we raise enough for people that are further out or need help getting there, and it'd be case by case basis, the goal would be to help them get there. And then, pay for food and some things like that. And eventually, honestly, the goal with the tavern is to go nonprofit so we can give back to the community and do things like pay teachers a little something extra if they run a D&D club. Give back, maybe work up to enough where we can do like some type of scholarship fund, things like that. Like, I have really big plans and dreams that I want to do for
vision.
this.
Yeah, that's great.
So we have, and with the auctions, we're doing we rotate between Dungeon Master and an item. So we've done, I think 3 or 4 Dungeon Masters so far. We have one currently up, Sloan. Great dude.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's great.
He's up and running. And then we've done dice bags. I've done, I don't have my cup in front of me, but I, like I said, I have a laser business, custom cup with the tavern logo on it. We've done some of that stuff. So yeah. Then we have our mod section. And then I don't know if it's still visible or not. They're supposed to be hidden, but heroes and adventurers. And this was part of my people that were part of my Patreon. My Patreon's really died down, which, kind of sad, but whatever. People, whatever, they do what they do. I have a big project with that, which I can give you a little teaser on.
Okay.
But those sections, they may be hidden now, but that was there for them, so I could give them specific information. Then we have our info, Monday updates, the most important part of the tavern. I do one update every week, and that is the only time that I tag everyone unless something important comes up. One day a week, and I go through a list. And then also on the tavern TikTok, I'll post it out there. It has video format and it has text, so you can read it and you can watch it. That is where the bread and butter is. And it kind of breaks my heart because a lot of people don't like read it or follow up on it. I'm like, dude, this is where you get the info.
Yeah, it's a Monday ritual for me now. It's you gotta go through and just even if you don't participate in every little thing, I think the fact that you are showing the depth of activity that's going on there is reinforcing and like someone over here I can't participate in it, but that sounds cool. I'm gonna go over here. So it feels like you're in a place. It doesn't feel like you're in a Discord server. It feels like something is going on and that you in fact our community. That Monday update is I think part of the magic, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, like that's where we can put stuff out. We do our giveaways, and it's so important because I don't want to be a server that's constantly pinging people. Like you're in some servers and you're getting 3-4 messages a day, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want it to be once, and that's it. Because if you get annoyed with the messages, you're going to visit that place less and less.
Yeah, that's right.
Then we have free Floki files. These are files that I create that I put out for free on Patreon, Ko-fi, TikTok, whatever. And I'll post the PDFs here. Resources and files. This is absolutely great. We have a bunch of stuff that has been given to us, whatever, that we'll just post in there. That is, either official content, non-official, third party, whatever. There are some links to websites, all kinds of stuff like that. There's even, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's a campaign in there where the person has shared that with us and has access to all of their stuff. So great for players. And then we have our staff AMA section where ask us anything. All right, then we get into the chaos. So our general section.
That's right.
Yeah, so we have a specific slow chat because for a while, and even now sometimes chaos chat literally it just explodes. You're like, how I can't.
Yeah.
What?
You can't predict it. It's like an earthquake or something. It's just like some days there's nothing going on, and then bam, there's like 100 messages.
Yeah. Yep. So we decided it was originally called Zen Chat as a place to slow down, but that I feel like that was a little bit confusing. So we put Chaos Chat and Slow Chat. Pretty self-explanatory. Out of context quotes, things that come up all the time in the tavern. We get a good laugh out of it. Food stuff. Posting pictures of food, caffeinate and hydrate. This came up because someone started posting pictures. I think it was SETI started posting a picture of himself with a monster.
It's got to be
SETI. So it just became a thing. People in the mornings, they'll take a picture of themselves with their coffee, their water, whatever they're drinking, and they'll post it in there. Standard memes, videos, music, pets, cosplay, which we need more cosplayers in here. We have a few, and they are incredible, but it doesn't get as used as much as it should. Then we have our bookworms, and then we have 2 more forums. We have gaming, non-D&D related, and then arts and crafts, non-TTRPG. So it's a place for our crafters to come together and post things that they make. And it's not necessarily for self-promo, but a little bit of that here and there is not a big deal as long as they're not spamming it. But it's really cool because people get to experience other things. And I think it's important that we step outside of D&D because there's so many great games out there. And there are some amazing creators here that make all kinds of stuff. Then we have, I didn't realize it. We have our voice channels, but there's one that we call the Cinebox Time channel. And one of our members runs a Plex server. And normally there's a movie running 24/7 you can hop in and watch. It's currently down, so I'll have to check in with him on that, but normally there. We have our tavern game section. So our tavern games, we had, for our fundraiser, we had 2 games that were running that were West Marches-esque, not necessarily, but they were in that style that people would play $5 donation. You could pay it or not, and you get to play. It was a really good time. And then we have our self-promo section. In here is a place for all your self-promo needs. I mean, whatever you want to post it. People will check it out. And we've had some great artists come in. We have woodworkers, we have dice makers, we have,
Mm.
YouTubers, Twitch, like all the things. TTRPG stuff is actually relatively quiet, with the exception of the Dice Museum. People are always posting pictures of the dice.
There's
And
lots
then
of
we
that.
have a specific forum for Meet the Dungeon Master and Meet the Player. And we have forums for Dungeon Master questions and player questions. I think this is important because a lot of times new DMs come in, or players, and they have questions they just don't understand. Well, here's a place you can post your questions. People come in, and people are pretty active. If you ask a question, if they don't know it, they'll tag somebody else, and like
Right.
it's a chain, and it seems to work really great. Then we have a gathering section. Our gathering section, like I said, we are doing our planning for this year's meetup. But there are other meetings outside of that. Like we've had people meet up in Tennessee, in Missouri, in all over. That they'll be like, "Oh, you're here. I'm coming by there. Let me,"
Yeah.
and they'll meet up and they'll post pictures and stuff like that.
Wow.
And then what I was telling you about earlier, our TikTok monthly game. This to me it was so important. It was really active at first and it's kind of died down, but this is a place for creators to come together and be able to jump in on a game. And normally what happens is we'll select a DM, they'll post about the game for that month, and then people are like, "Yep, I'm in," or they won't respond. And if we hit more than 4 players, normally we'll spin a wheel to pick names. But
Mm.
yeah, so we do it, and it's always on TikTok Live, so that way we can push each other out and help each other
Oh,
grow.
there you go. Beautiful. Yeah.
Because you get small creators with big creators, and so big creators bring
Yeah.
in a bigger crowd,
Right.
and they can be like, "Oh, wait, who is this guy I've never heard of?" And they check them out, and it just
And the great thing about having it rotate is it's always fresh. There's always someone else's perspective. One of the things that I think, well, we could talk. We're going to talk about DM advice later, but yeah, one of the things that I think is really important for dungeon masters, especially the forever dungeon masters, is to get out and see other, not only watch other dungeon masters, but be a player for a little bit and remember what it's like to be a player. And you'll always find a way to improve your own performance as a dungeon master. So having that is just brilliant.
oh yeah, yeah. I love it. I played in a couple. I've ran a couple. I absolutely love it. Excuse me. Um, okay, so after that, we have our small business section. Not a lot of activity here, but what I did was I posted a while back because we started on our Monday updates. Now we do a member shout out and then a small business shout out. So again, we can help continue to grow our community. So I had the people that were in the small business area. Hey, post your links so that way I can go through and kind of call each other of you out. And I just want to promote more people that are in this space so we can grow. Uh, we have our well-being section. This is a great spot that I
Yeah.
wasn't really certain on at first, but I'm really glad we started it. So we have a reminder section. So for people that have ADHD or just struggle with remembering things, um, you can pick up the reminders tag. And so people will go in here once or twice a day and they'll say, "Hey, uh, don't forget to drink your water. Don't forget to take your meds," or things like that. We also have a vent channel where the only rule basically is don't weaponize the vent channel. And then outside of that, don't respond unless someone asks for a response. Now,
Mm.
the caveat here being is if it sounds like there's some self harm intentions, we will reach out because we want to make sure you're good. And then we have a gratitude section, which is also great, and accomplishments and personal goals. So we can kind of help each other work forward. Now, probably our most active section is our writers wing. So in this area, we have Black Flag Zach and Malia Daza. Malia Daza is a published author. They run this section, and I mean, it is always going. They do writing sprints. They do like reviews of each other's work. They do all kinds of stuff. And they are, if it wasn't for Malia and Zach, it wouldn't be a space. But they are always in there, and they are super active. So if anybody's
Mm.
into writing or anything like that, you definitely got to come check out our writers wing.
Yeah. Great.
Uh, and then the kind of the last two areas, we have a bot area, which is where like, it'll tell you what your level is in the server and all that kind of stuff. And then we have our barbarian training. Now the barbarian training was something that I
That's
started up. I
right.
started, yeah. So I started
That's
trying to live
beautiful.
better,
Yeah.
live better, get healthier, go to the gym,
That's
things
right.
like that. And we picked up Coach Wolf. Coach Wolf came in
Right.
and I was like, "Hey man, would you be willing to run this?" And he said, "Yeah, for sure." And so,
Perfect
um,
person to do it.
yeah, exactly. He is a professional trainer. That's
Yeah.
one of his jobs. Um, And it helps keep each other on track, even if you're not going to the gym, even if it's just living a healthier lifestyle, walking, eating better, drinking
Yeah.
more water, whatever. It just we want. I honestly, me personally, I want to break the stigma of the fat, stinky nerd. Right? That is a general stigma, and like I hate that.
Yeah,
So
me too.
if we can, and it's also for us and for our kids and for our family, like doing better and living better is just it's just a good thing in general.
That's right.
So this is a great place for us to help come together and work through that.
So you said you were going to tease something.
So so we on my Patreon, I posted about it a while back. I had a project that I was working on by myself. Well, recently I partnered with Coach Wolf, and we are working on a monthly release that will have some great things. We recently just had a conversation with an artist, and we are working to release a monthly content that will be it will be good. Well, it'll include things like one shots. It'll have items. It'll have
There you go.
also I've got some content from the IMTBG, the bearded GM. Phenomenal. If you don't know who he is, check out his podcast as well, the Medusa Cascade, which I'm a guest on. Little self promo
There you
there.
go.
Uh, but he's giving us content for that as well, and we're going to include community members. It's a big project that is going to be on my Patreon and on Drive Through RPG. So big
Nice.
things in the works.
There you go. All right. Well, I think that's a great segue because I think what we're going to talk about next is let's get into some hands-on and talk about the campaigns that you have managed. Tell us what happened in them, what you remember, things that you struggled with, and then finally at the end we'll get into some advice for new dungeon masters in part 2.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So okay. So let's go to part 2. So you want to take a quick water break or anything? Are you good?
I mean, I'm good if you are.
I just need some water. So I'm going to edit it here. I'm thinking maybe just cut this thing into 2 parts, and so there'll be a part 1 and a part 2. That way, because we're such a gear shift. I don't know. I'll see how the edit looks, and I'm going to put this up on. I'll put a password protected YouTube
Okay.
before I release it. So I'll send it. I'll send the link to you. I'll give you the password. You just take a look and tell me. I'll probably. I think I knocked over my question board in the middle of it. Like I was like, I'm just gonna freeform this. I was like, whatever, man. All right. Okay, I'm gonna say welcome back, and then yeah, let's just start talking about campaigns. Okay, there we go. Okay, so welcome back, and this is part 2 of the interview with DM Floki. And in this part, we're going to talk about some practical, hands-on advice, and we're going to get into some of his memorable campaigns. So, out of all the campaigns you've run, what's the most memorable for you, or influential to you, or has affected you as a DM?
I bet. I mean, honestly, I think that is my first campaign that I ever ran, and I wonder if it's like that for most people, just because I think you learn so much the first time you do it, especially if you've never played before. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, I had played, for a couple of years, but yeah, I think the first one. Um, yeah, so I was telling you about it earlier. So we try to get these guys at work to play, and I went out, I bought the starter set, the is the starter set or the I don't know. There's two different ones. I never remember which one, but
Mhm.
it came with the Dragon of Icespire Peak.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went out and bought this, and I was like, this is what I'm going to run. So we tried to get the guys at work to play, and they kept flaking, kept flaking, kept flaking. And finally, my friend, she was like, listen, I have 1,000 followers on TikTok. Why don't I post on TikTok and I'll see who we can get? And I was like, sure. So also around that time, she's like, listen, stop being a creeper on TikTok and start posting stuff. And I was like, oh. So I started doing that as well. So we posted TikTok and we have an influx. Speaking of which, if you ever need a game and you're going to run a game, post on TikTok, say you're looking for people, you'll find everybody you want. But so we posted out there, and we had two different Discords. We had one to bring people in, and then we had a separate one where it was like our personal one.
Mm.
So what we did was we brought all these people in, and we had a basically like a questionnaire, and to see if they would fit with us. We
Mm.
were both active duty, and people in the military can be pretty gruff, pretty brazen, pretty we don't give a shit, right? So
Right.
like we will not politically correct, any of that stuff. So we didn't want anybody that we felt wouldn't mesh with us, because if you're going to get offended by something,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So we went through, we found a list, and our players that we ended up with, we ran a couple one shots, and our players were from all over. We had, I think, one guy was in Texas. We had another one in Iowa, I think, and then me and her there, and then I think we had one more. So we ended up with them, and we started playing. And the idea, a couple of the guys were former military, and he was like, "Hey, why don't we run a one shot? Like has to do with a wooby." And there was some other context around that, and I don't remember it exactly, but I was like, "Yo, I could run with that." So I sat down and I wrote out this one shot that was based around the sacred wooby, which it was interesting to say the least. So I wrote this out in my head, and I don't have the notebook in front of me. I think it's at work, where I wrote it all out, and I had like drawings of maps, because at this time I didn't know how to use Roll20. I didn't know, like,
Mm.
this was all theater of the mind. I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
And so we started playing, and I wrote this out. I started them off. They were all woke up. They were naked in the field. That was how I started it.
Sorry, a real quick question.
Yeah.
What do you remember? What play did you use? Pre-gen characters, or did you let them roll up their own characters?
No, they had all played D&D before, so I let them roll
Oh,
up
okay,
their own
so they
characters.
knew
And
what to do.
yeah, I think it might have been level 5. I don't remember.
Mm.
But yeah, they were all pretty familiar, because, like I said, they came from TikTok, so
Yeah, no
they seemed to
problem.
have played before. But yeah, so I had them all roll up their own. And one thing that I didn't take into account, and I think this is great for dungeon masters, is look at your players' character sheets, know a little bit about them. I think that's important. I know now that's important. So, but yeah, so we ran this, and it wasn't the greatest. It ran a little long, as one shots do, and but what I found was that these people meshed with what we were looking for. So we started running that. And I was like, man, that was a really fun one shot. What if your characters that you played in the one shot they're going to be major parts of history? Maybe they are the ancestors of your new characters for the campaign.
Mm.
And my thought behind, picking up the starter set and it being such a simple adventure to run was that I've never been a dungeon master. I've ran these two one shots or whatever, but that's a one shot. That's simple.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll take this adventure and I'll run that, and that'll teach me how to be a dungeon master. And, which, by the way, I think is great. I think it's a great place to start. One
Yeah.
shot, or like the short adventure like that. I think that's
Yeah, it clicks all the it checks all the boxes of what you need to think about as a dungeon master. It's training wheels, really. Yeah,
yeah.
and so once you know, okay, I've got to figure out this, I've got to figure out this, I've got to figure out this. Yeah, that's great. So then you moved into a larger campaign with the same players.
Yeah, well, before I did that though, when we ran through the Dragon of Icespire Peak, I modified it. I'm homebrewed it to fit what I knew was going to be my campaign in the end. And so I read the adventure, and I was like, okay, I understand what's happening here. But my mind was, these players are all part of the army of Tritarium, was the name that I gave them. And so they were considered like special ops, and this was their first assignment. And so I had to I, I had to homebrew some characters. I had to modify some parts of the story. I had to modify some characters, things like that. And that kind of like that mix of getting into the homebrew portion while running this main campaign, I think really helped feed me along the way with how to be a better DM.
Mm.
And So we ran it, and I mixed and matched and did things, and they ended the adventure early because they killed the dragon, and that was a mistake that I made, and it was a learning lesson for me.
How did that? Could you tell us about how did exactly did that go down? How do you kill a dragon early?
Yeah, so they had done maybe 4 of the quest board quests, um, around 4 or 5. And so what I forgot about while they were doing these quests was you're supposed to roll to see if they seat the dragon. And so on this particular one, I remembered that, and I was like, "Oh, they're going out here. This is a great time for them to do it." So I rolled, and it just so happens they encountered the dragon. I was like, "Well, okay." So they, at this point, they'd been out several times, and they had got simple magic items. One of the magic items they had got was I found it on Pinterest. I think it was like the garden stick matchbook or something like that. I don't remember, but it was a box of matches that when you pull them out, there's like little twigs inside them. When you throw them out, they instantly sprout.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, that's like just a cool, simple magic item, whatever. Like,
Yes.
uh, yeah,
I
yeah,
can see
that's
where
what
this
you
is
think. So in the story, it says that if they interact with the dragon before they make it to the end, if at any point if he gets close to death, he leaves. And so they were fighting this dragon. They were like, I'd given them a couple magic items that were a little too powerful, and they were tearing this dude up. And
Hmm.
so I'm like, okay, he's got to leave. And he goes to fly away, and they're like, well, don't we get a tax of opportunity?
Yep, they do. They do.
Yes, yes, you do. Uh, and so pretty much everyone gets a shot at this guy, and they're describing the characters, describing what they're doing, and one guy's like, "Hey, man, as my action, can I throw the matches out underneath it?" And I was like,
Uh-oh.
"Okay, yeah, sure." And to me, that's not a big deal, right? Whatever, we'll make
Right.
it work. And I think he was the last. He was the last one before the dragon was actually going to get away. And so he throws these out, and it says that they sprout up instantly X amount of feet. I don't remember the exact footage, but X amount. And then um, he was like, "Well, hey, they're sprouting up. They're going to hit into his stomach, right? If it's magically sprouting, of course it's going to be damaged." I was like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Let me figure out how much damage." And we kind of went back and forth. And I was like, "Okay, let's do a D4." And he was like, "Okay, cool." He said, "Do you want me to roll for all of them?" I was like, "No, that's a shit ton of trees. Like, we'll just do once." He rolled a 4. He rolled a 4, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was a bunch of trees. And so we multiply that damage, and I described it as like, hey, it shot
As
up, it hit into the dragon's stomach,
End
and
of the dragon.
into the dragon.
End of the
And
dragon. Mm,
you know,
well,
it was fun for them, but it's definitely a learning lesson.
first of all, good on you for letting it happen. I think a lot of dungeon masters, especially in the early stages of their development, are always going to say, nah, that's not what I want to happen. So I'm going to deus ex machina, a way for this dragon to survive. And I don't want it, because I don't want it to derail the story I have in mind. But then as you kind of play for a while, you realize, well, actually, that's what the story is. Them killing the dragon is the story.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, players will always figure out a way. Whatever, no matter how hard the situation that you present to them, whatever, random obscure item or spell that they have, they will find a way to use it to their advantage. And that's part of the fun of dungeon mastering, is
Yeah.
not you telling them what the story is. It's like, pose the scenario, and then you sit back and see how they get out of it. And that's where the fun is. For me as a dungeon master, that's one of the most fun parts of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
But I think the lesson for me in that is that it, you don't always have to allow things to happen. I think it's important because
mm,
the memory of that incident lives with me forever. And I think it lived with them forever. And it was something that they always talked about.
yeah.
But also, I think there's the other side of that too is there was more to that story. And I'm not saying in every situation, but sometimes it's important to be like, hey, no, you can't do that because XYZ. That way, that story continues on because there can be important things that are coming up that they haven't interacted with. But I think having both sides of that is like, hey, this was a really cool
Yeah,
piece that they didn't necessarily get to finish the story, but man, they will forever remember this. And I
yeah,
did a video the other day that said, the most important tip I can ever give you is let your players win. And that's kind of the
yeah,
same thing here. Like, I
yeah,
let the players win, and they, that's something they knew and they remembered. Whereas on the other side too, though, I could have easily, been like, well, no, that's not an attack, and then the dragon gets away, and they live to fight another day, and they continue the story because I don't know, maybe they were going to meet their mother on their
yeah.
way to this place that they were going, or something like that. I think there's both sides, and I think if it's super important that that dragon got away, then that dragon gets away one way or another, whether you add extra hit points and you really flavor it up to like, oh no, he's like bleeding out or he's like whatever, but he still manages to slip away.
Mm.
The way that it goes down is the important piece, because if you just make it super obvious that like, no, 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 he's going to live and he gets away, that hurts your players and that hurts you as a
Right.
team.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
if you can take it and twist it and find a way to make it work because it's important that that piece lives, you can do that as long as it's not obvious that's what you're doing.
Mm. So if you could go back in time to that situation and say, I do want that dragon to survive, how would you try and fix that so that it would get away?
Um, I think that I probably would have. I'd already described it basically in Death's Door, so it was hard to come back from that. I think
Mm.
I would have, in that situation, I probably would have had the trees, even though they were magical, they're still only wood compared to a dragon scale.
Right.
I think I would have said, yeah, they go up and hit, but it's not enough to pierce the dragon's skin. Maybe it does half damage,
Yeah,
or
or it's
something
got
like
some
that.
resistance to it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, you got to think we're fighting this dragon with powerful weapons and metal and things like that. Do you think a stick is going to pierce that dragon?
Mm. Yeah, not so much. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, so are there any other campaigns that you'd like to talk about that you have had in addition to that one?
Yeah. I mean, with that one, another piece I want to hit on with that one is later on in the
Okay.
campaign. So after we finished the dragon story, I introduced the Dragonborn, which the players are going to be fighting, and I realized quickly that I'd set their AC way too high for the levels of the players, and I think I set it at like 22. And
That's pretty rough.
these are supposed to be fairly low level guys. They were supposed to come in and be difficult, but
Right.
22, oh god.
Yeah, that's a
So I
tank.
quickly realized that, and I had to correct that. But later on down the line, and this is a piece that I for like Dungeon Master advice that I want to get into. They go once they go onto their main adventure away from that. We go from I've never homebrewed and we've played like 4 or 5 weeks to full blown homebrew. You know, And so they go on a journey. They get to their main base camp, and this is where they meet their new commanding officer, any special ops guy, whatever. Um, they go from missions out of that base, and they went on one where they met one of the main protagonists, and that was a crazy episode. But anyways, when they get back, I had them appear outside of the base, and I heard one of the players say, "He's going to blow up the base,"
Yeah.
and I thought, that's a brilliant idea. Now, I didn't do it in that moment because I didn't have the gumption, the wherewithal to like work through that in that moment. But
Right.
the next time they left base and they were teleported back, that was
Boom.
when I had the base blow up. And so
There you go.
some of your best ideas are not yours. They will come from your
Right, they
players.
come from the players and you just run with it.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah, anytime there's even just small stuff, like if there's an investigation scene and they start, "Well, maybe this and this and it's happening because of this." And you're like, "I didn't plan that, but yes, that's brilliant."
Yeah.
And then they feel like they figured something out and it makes them
Yes.
feel great.
I remember specifically when that happened. They were like, "Oh, I told you. I told you." And I was
I
like,
told you. Right,
"Yeah,
right.
that's what happened."
Hopefully no players are watching this, right? Because we got to keep that, we got to keep that secret. We don't, yeah, it's going
Yep.
to limit my, audience, but whatever. I don't care. We cannot let them know our secrets.
Yeah.
Very
And
good.
then probably the next most important piece that I learned from that campaign, being my first one, there was a point in time where they went off on an adventure to see there was this magical sickness floating around, and people were dying. And so they go out and they investigate, and they find this body, and what they discover is there's a poison involved.
Mm.
And to me, the poison was inconsequential. It was meant as a piece to get them to the next piece. It was kind of like a MacGuffin almost. They focused so heavily on that. And so one of the players had a like a poisoner's kit and like herbalist, and like they were really into that. And then one player was really into the medical side of things. And so they were
Mm.
at a medical field location. And so they're like, "Oh, I want to take the poison. I want to do this, and I want to research." And I'm like, and I was like, "Oh," you look around and there's no equipment, there's no this, there's no that, and they like, I really shut them down. And afterwards, I talked to one of the players about it, and they were like, that's my background. That's the thing that my character is really into. So when you just said no, that
Yeah.
really like shut me down and upset me. And I was like, oh shit. So
Yeah.
like in that moment, I took away that thing that was giving them joy, that they were excited about and they wanted to know more about. And it could have been as simple as like telling them, yes, you do some tests, you find some information, but it's you don't have enough info to really know much about this potion. You're going to need to take it with you and do more research. Something as
Yeah.
simple as that could have changed that whole trajectory.
Completely.
But
Yeah, I've made that mistake so many times too. It took me a long time to figure out whatever is on that character. And one of the things you said earlier, make sure you read that character sheet. But one of the things that you need to be reading it for is what are all the little obscure things that they can do, and give them an opportunity. They wrote it down. They want it to be there, and give them an opportunity to use it. And like you said, even if it's in, it's not game changing or game breaking in any way, but they get to feel like they are that character on the sheet.
yeah, yeah, and so that was a big one for me. And I did a video about it, talking about let your players do cool shit, because the cool
Yep.
shit that you may not think is awesome. I thought that poison was inconsequential, but they thought it was awesome, and it was something they really dug into, and I shut them down. So like,
Yeah.
if your players think it's cool, let them do it. Find a way to make it work. Find a way to
Yeah.
bring that into the story.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, so any more campaigns you want to go through, or do you want to move into some other best practices that you'd like to cover?
Um, yeah, so we can the one of the other mistakes that I made as a dungeon master. So I started up a campaign with a group of friends, and we were streaming it. We were doing all the stuff. The campaign fell apart. There was outside influences because of the reasons why. But one of the things I did was, when I opened that campaign, I introduced a protagonist very early. The whole goal of the first couple sessions was meant for them to find the protagonist, and they were on a bounty to get him. And so I opened it up with them being in this town and then eventually coming together, and they spot him and they chase him. And there was a spell that was it wasn't a save or suck. It just happens. I think it was like man, sleep, or I don't remember, but it was one of those that like basically knocks you out. And this was another one of those, this is important to the story. And I said, he's going to use a legendary resistance to avoid it. And afterwards, they were like, oh, then they continued the chase. They end up catching him. And then something happened, and they turned their backs, and then he escaped. And so afterwards, they were like, you telegraphed that. Like, he was always going to get away. Like, you let us know that really early. And I was like, but he's like really important to the story. I kind of had to. But the thing about that is, even if that character is important to the story, there can always be someone else that replaces them, that fills the role that you had initially planned. And
Right. There's
so,
always a bigger fish.
exactly.
Right.
And the way that I did that was probably not the best. And it was kind of like, it was similar to
Yeah.
the dragon scenario, right? Where in this
Yeah.
situation, I didn't let the players win, but I didn't explain it well enough. And I think I could have just let them have him, and that would have been it. And then I could have taken another villain and moved them into that spot and said, this is the new guy doing the thing that I had originally planned for him.
Mm.
Um, so the point being, there's always room to learn and grow. You're going to make a mistake. All dungeon masters do it. Even the most experienced dungeon master. I mean, look at Matt Mercer.
Right.
He's made mistakes and he's corrected himself. It's there's always going to be something for you to learn from. And at the end of the day, it's all about, are you having fun with your players?
Right. Right. Is everyone at the table having fun, including you? I mean, it's got to be fun for the players. You're there to you're generating the scenarios, but if you're also, I think sometimes if you're not having fun, the players are going to sense that too. And it's really
Yeah.
important to make sure that everyone at the table is on, on the same wavelength and enjoying it. I wanted to ask you, some of your TikToks, you talk about home brews. I really want
Yeah.
to talk about the called shot one because I love that. I saw that recently, and
Okay.
I think it's one of the best home brews for called shots I've ever seen. Can you walk us through it?
Yeah. Let me pull it up so I don't make any
Okay,
mistakes.
that's probably a good
Uh,
idea. It's your own rule. Hey, that's not what you said earlier. Okay,
yeah.
go ahead
Yeah.
and pull it up.
So, yeah. Okay. Let me pull it up. Let me take a minute. So, alternate crits, called shots. I had this idea of, we don't do enough with crits, and like when you're a lot of the time, some dungeon masters don't allow called shots at all. But
Hmm.
if you ever want to call a shot, because I'm sure you've been in a game where like you've been like, oh, I want to put his eye out so he can't see, or
Right.
something that would impede their ability to do something because they're super powerful. We don't really have an
There's no way.
ability to do that.
There's right.
So without making it too overpowered, it started out really overpowered, and after a couple revisions from people, I kind of toned it down. I still am a fan of doing the overpowered stuff, but I'm just me. Um, so I toned it down, and the idea behind the call shots, which you can pick these up for free over on my Patreon, my Ko-fi. I think I posted it in the tavern, in the free stuff.
Yeah, you
If I
did.
haven't,
Yeah,
okay, cool. Yeah.
yeah, you did.
So the idea, and I included a feat here, but the idea behind this is a different thing that you can do with your criticals. So you'll still get the max damage, but you'll get an additional benefit of possibly doing something in a tactical situation. So let's say this target is, they're really smashing into you, but you're really fast, so you can move around a lot. Well, now, now you can, if you roll a crit, you can punch them in the nose or hit them in the nose or whatever, and blind them until the end of their next turn. So that can give you a tactical advantage to go and do something. I've got a bunch of these here. Do you want me to go through each individual one?
Yeah, it's okay. I think the concept is there. Pick a couple of your favorites.
Okay. So I like the jaw mouth, because the nose and eyes and the jaw mouth. So I don't know if you've ever been in a fight, but if you get hit in the
Oh
nose,
yeah,
you're going to start crying and you're going to
it
be
hurt.
like, it's going to mess you up for a minute. So I
Yeah,
think that putting those together, I think that just makes so much sense for the target to be blinded for a round.
yeah,
Um, and then same thing with the jaw and the mouth. Think about where the hero scale. If you're hitting somebody, like you're a hero, you're hitting them hard. So if you hit them in the mouth, they can no longer speak until the end of their next turn, which means any spells that require verbal components, you can't do it. So I really love that one. Um, let me see one more. Okay, and then I have another one for the legs. So two different ones here that I kind of like. So if you aim for their knee, you have the opportunity to knock the target prone, and then their speed is reduced by 15 feet until the end of their next turn. So basically, they can get up, and depending how much speed they have, they can move maybe 5 feet. And then because if you've been hit in the knee, if it you can buckle and collapse, and then as a broader sense, the leg, then you can't take a reaction until the end of their next turn. So like, you get hit in the leg, if you're moving, somebody moves past you to get that attack of opportunity, well, you have to
Right.
turn and like be ready. But if your leg is all jacked up from where you were just hitting it, well,
You can't.
it's going to
Yeah,
be
you're
hard.
not going anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really like the idea of applying these practical effects to combat because it makes it more tactical, but also it adds a sense of realism. Now, not all these are going to be perfectly realistic, and I'm sure people can come up with others to add to this list. But I love that idea of I don't if I'm doing a crit and okay, I did extra damage, whatever, right? Maybe extra damage isn't what you need at this point. Maybe you're just trying to subdue them. Maybe by applying one of these effects, it allows you to do more damage in the long run because they're blinded, because they're
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, that was my thought process.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. I think one thing I struggle right now. Anytime someone gets a crit on something, like I don't always know exactly. I want something to be cool, like some kind of cool result coming out of it. But double damage it's great mechanically, but it's not fun narratively. So just having that little extra, you know, you knock them out in the nose, or hit them in the side, and they knock the wind out of them, whatever. Just something to give it just some flavor, but do it in a way that the dungeon master doesn't have to just stop and think every single time it happens. Just give them a framework, and that's what I love about it. Just a little bit of just spice onto
Yeah.
the combat that wasn't there before.
Well,
Very
and
nice.
and that's the other piece too is like you don't have to do this. If you want to just do the
Right.
double damage, you can do the double damage. But if you're like,
Yep.
no, tactically this makes sense, I'm gonna do this. Because you still you get to do the let me make sure because I've changed this a couple times. Uh, so oh yeah, so you get to do the maximum damage of your weapon, but instead of getting the additional die for the additional damage, you get to do these things. So I mean, think about it. If you get some dungeon masters, they run with the rule of hey, if you get a crit, it's max damage, and then you roll those. Some you roll all the dice. So think
Mm,
about it in this way: that if you use these rules, then that original set of whatever your damage dice is going to be maxed out, and
yeah.
then you get something else. So like, why not?
Yep. Yeah. Very nice. Do you have any other home brews that you're using that you would like to recommend to people?
Uh, Man, I homebrew so much stuff. I honestly I don't run modules. The only
Yeah.
module I've ever ran was iSpire Peak. So everything that I do is homebrew.
Everything.
Um, yeah. So I mean, obviously I use the core rules, right? But like I I, I am very much a rule of cool. So to me, if it makes sense, if you approach me, you're like, hey, I want to do this thing, or this should happen because of X. If it makes sense, then yeah, let's do it. Um, so as far as homebrew rules though, or just homebrew in general, I think if you get out there and you use your creativity, you're going to have a better time. And some people aren't like that, and that's fine. You
Mm,
can run the module as it is and have a lot of fun with it. But I think really getting in and digging in with homebrew can be such a rewarding experience because you get to put yourself in the minds of the game developers of D&D or
right.
of whatever system you're running, and you can learn a lot about why they may if you do run modules and homebrew, you'll learn a lot about why they made the decisions that they made in the modules.
Very nice. All right. Well, do you have any final pithy, quick, concise, like one-liner advice for new dungeon masters?
Consume, consume, consume. I did this in a video the other day. If you consume all of the content you can, write down what sticks out to you as important, trash the rest, because at the end of the day, the things that you think are important are going to be the ones that you use. And as long as you maintain that, you're going to have a good time. It's your game. The dungeon master is allowed to do whatever they want to do. You make the rules, do what you want to do, and have fun. We are here to have fun together as friends, as whatever. And that's all that matters. If something is off the wall and you're like, whatever, we're going to roll with it, then do it. Also, this is a very common one. If you don't know, you don't have to look at the table. Make a quick ruling, jot it down, look it up later. And then probably the final piece that really sticks out to me a lot is if you know you're going into combat and you have a set list of people they're going to run into, if they have spells, write the damn spell down, because nothing is worse than in the middle of combat going,
Like,
let me
what,
flip to it or let
what does
me
silvery
Google it.
barbs do?
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
But yeah, have a good time and just, it 2014, 2024, it doesn't matter. It's just a
That's
game
right.
about having fun.
Yeah, that's right. Well, with that, I want to say thank you so much for coming here, lending your wisdom, and I'm going to post all the links to just everything you mentioned here. We'll do the Discord. We'll do anything else you'd like. So
Okay.
everyone, please go ahead and check him out, and I will see you again, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm more
All
than
right.
happy to
Yeah,
come
yeah.
back.
Let's come
So
back
ask your
come back
questions,
anytime.
because whenever I do
Yeah.
come back, we'll have questions to answer.
There you go. All right. Thank you very much.
So, yeah.